Mr. Lee, before you came, I had already done the introduction, described to them what we were celebrating on our 7th anniversary. I thank Mr. Kwok Kun Hong, Wilma, and Mr. Ron Sim for supporting our China-India Research Initiative. And I also said that we are greatly honored to have you speak for the first time as a distinguished fellow at our school. To save time, we've told them that we have collected the questions in advance from the students and the audience. So, Mr. Lee, with your permission, I'll pose the first question to you. As you know, most of our students at the Lee Kuan Yew School have come here to find out how to achieve good governance. Singapore has been blessed with good governance for several decades now. You've written about the subject several times. At the same time, in the recent financial crisis, the world was surprised that even developed countries in America and Europe have faced serious challenges in sustaining good governance. How have your views on good governance been shaped by recent developments, especially in Europe and America?
I think good governance doesn't mean you can overcome any crisis. All it means is you've got a system in place which under normal conditions can correct itself. But in critical times it may just tip over.
So in a crisis, it doesn't help you?
No.
We actually had a student from France in our school. Her name is Rashid. And the question was, do you have any advice in the context of a weakening French economy, since you're going to be launching the French edition? What advice do you have for France? It's from a French student.
The French edition has nothing to do with the French economy. I'd rather not answer the question.
Okay, we have actually lots of questions from our students, Mr. Lee. And I'm going to begin with a question from a student from Rwanda, Yvette Ingabire, who said that she recently heard and agreed with the statement that good governance happens when there's a congruency between leaders' personal vested interests and national interests. And her question to you is, when you were growing up, did you ever dream of yourself becoming a recognized global statesman?
When I was growing up, I was simply growing up and finishing my examinations.
But when you became the leader, did you dream that Singapore would become where it is today?
No, but what I did was to catch every wind that came along. And we are a reflection of the forces at work in the world. And we use all the forces that came our way to our advantage.
So I guess the answer to her question is we took advantage of every circumstance that came along. Yeah.
Correct.
The second question is about entrepreneurship. And this student from India, Anshul Alawadi, MPP student, said that entrepreneurship may not have really worked in Singapore, possibly because of the government. Do you think that there is a social cultural psyche? Singaporeans prefer structures, rules, and conformity and are therefore non-entrepreneurial? Or has the efficiency and intervention of the Singapore government damaged the entrepreneurial spirit in Singapore?
Well, I cannot say. I've been puzzled by this for some time, the difference between Hong Kong and Singapore. And I think it is the absence of what I would call a comprehensive, caring government that has created the need to be enterprising and innovative. We have looked after everybody's needs, and people are comfortable. And being an entrepreneur means taking a risk. And requires effort. So not many have taken the risk or made the effort. It will change in time.
Do you think you have lessons to learn from Hong Kong in that regard? Why are Hong Kongers much more?
Because they came from the coastal provinces of China. The entrepreneurs were running away from the communists. So they started off with a group of people who were naturally gung-ho, who refused to find themselves trapped by the communists and started new businesses or carried on with their businesses under new conditions. So they had a group of people, and later on their descendants, and they created their culture, which attracted more people into entrepreneurship. We did not have that selective group of people who were already entrepreneurs and who came on board because they were being chased out by the communists or escaping from the communists. We grew organically from a colonial outpost, no particular elite, entrepreneurial elite, and it will take a long time to create one. To be an entrepreneur, you must have the qualities of a Bill Gates or a Dell. In other words, high energy levels, thinking out of the box, and persistence in trying again after every failure.
I have a related question from my colleague, Dr. Astrid Tuminas. She says, Singapore is now trying to make a concerted effort to enhance innovation and creativity. And how do you think we are doing in that dimension? And what more measures can Singapore take to become more innovative?
I think if they can think of anything, please tell the government.
So we get them to make some suggestions to the government. The next set of questions I have, Mr. Lee, is actually about Singapore's politics and Singapore's political system, and there are some sharp questions here. There's a student from Indonesia, Fika Fauzia, MPP.
How is that all the questions are coming from foreigners?
Well, I do have some questions of Singaporeans. But,
no, I do not want to have to answer foreigners' queries all the time. I think a certain amount of interest and curiosity by foreigners is legitimate. But I'd like to answer what Singaporeans want to know, because they are my responsibility.
Yeah. But I think our students, as you know, come from over 50 countries, Mr. Lee. So they want to learn from you how they can apply the lessons of Singapore to the...
I am not an expert on conditions in 50 different countries. I am not qualified to give them advice. But I do know something about Singapore and can have some confidence in making judgments about ourselves.
Yeah. So this is a question about economic development and democracy, whether there's a trade-off between economic development and democracy. Does a country have to pursue economic development first before becoming a full democracy? And that you have to have a level of economic development before you can really enjoy full democracy?
Yes, of course. If you don't have economic development, what democracy can you have except that of contention over your parlor state? You must have your physical needs, Maslow's physical needs, finally fulfillment, 5 levels, hierarchies. And my view is unless you fill the physiological and shelter needs, you can't reach what in democratic practice would be fulfillment and self-achievement.
In fact, I met recently an American citizen who gave up his American citizenship to become a Singapore citizen. And he was telling me that his assessment of what's happening in Singapore is that on the basis of Maslow's needs, as Singaporeans have filled their basic material needs as they move up the hierarchy of needs, they now seem to want to have greater participation in the political process. And how do we handle that now?
Well, conditions change. After a long period of quiet, confident growth, A generation that grows up in a period of affluence believes that we have arrived. And as the saying goes, a first world parliament must have a first world opposition. So the restlessness, whether that leads to better governance, I'm not able to say. I think we'll wait and see how constructive the opposition can be, or will be.